Okay, Adam, so fresh off yesterday's budget, I thought we'd just do a quick few minutes on some of the key highlights that we can take away from it. I don't want to go through everything in detail because obviously there's content everywhere on this sort of thing now, but you have picked out a few pertinent points that I think will be of interest to our audience in particular. I'll start with the corporation tax, because obviously that's the one that directly affects all businesses. You were saying before that they sort of underplayed it a little bit by saying it only affects 10% of businesses, but it's, if you listen to the wording carefully, the 25% only affects a small amount of businesses. But currently the corporation tax rate is 19%, and any business earning taxable profits of more than 50,000 will now pay a higher rate of corporation tax. So if taxable profits are more than 250,000, you'll pay the full 25%. If taxable profits are less than 50,000, you'll continue to pay 19%. But on taxable profits between 50 and 250,000, you're going to be paying somewhere between 19 and 25%. So that's the first one. That kicks in from the 1st of April. So if you've got a 31st of March year end, you're going to be affected as of your 31st of March 2024 year end. If you've got a year end that's earlier than that, this is basically going to be prorated. So you'll pay 19% on the amount of your profits up to the 31st of March. And then for your rest of your financial year up to your next year end, you'll pay the new rate if you're making more than 50,000. There was then this thing about full expensing policy, which I think there's been a lot. It just feels like another headline grabber. Most of our clients spend less than £1 million a year on fixed assets, and you'll still get 100% capital allowances on that. So I don't think the full expensing is much to talk about. The bigger one, I think, is the lifetime allowance, which I don't know about you, but I wasn't expecting that until very close to the wire, and then that came through. So do you want to just talk us through how that works and the bit that you think a lot of people might miss in the detail?
Yeah, this was, I think, possibly the biggest bombshell of the budget, that or another area to do with childcare. So what was leaked in advance of the budget is the notion that they're going to increase the amount that you can hold in your pension before you start to lose tax relief effectively. So that figure's changed over a number of years. Originally it was 1.8, brought it down to 1.5, then 1.2. As it stands today, it's 1.07. So that's 1.07 million that you can have in your pension, get 20% of the tax-free cash on that, and the remainder you can take it as an income in retirement. So the rumours were that might get up to 1.5, 1.8 again, but what they actually did was remove that completely. So what that means in real terms is that you can have as much money in your pension and get tax relief, subject to annual allowance, to build up that pot quite significantly now. One of the small details, which they didn't announce in the budget, or certainly in the speech, was they are still capping the amount you can take in tax-free cash, which is going to be £268,275, so a nice round number. But it now is turning into pensions into a lot more of an attractive vehicle. They already were because they're so tax efficient, but you now can have the freedom and the confidence to build up that pot and not being worried about the value it will be when you do retire.
So up until the end of this tax year, it was you could take 25% of that 1.07 on retirement, and then the other 75% as an annuity, as a drawdown. And now the 25% of the 1.07 has remained.
Exactly.
But the actual full pot allowance has disappeared. Exactly.
So that is big for many people, and it's probably a bigger conversation of here of what you can do with that pot. And it's got many uses, but that remaining 75% or that value above 268,000 can provide you an income for the rest of your life. Not just as an annuity, but you can access it at different levels at different time.
Yeah, it just won't be 75% now if you've gone over the limit with it, because it's the 25% of the 1.07 is what's stuck, and then the rest is now unlimited. Yeah, that makes sense. And then the other big one on pensions was obviously the annual allowance, which has been the same for quite a few years. It was 50,000, wasn't it, a number of years ago? Dropped to 40,000, and now is going up to 60,000. So £60,000 between basically your business, employer and employee can contribute. If you're contributing personally, there are other limits on that as well, which we won't go into today. but your company, provided that it meets certain criteria, will be able to contribute up to 40 currently, up to 60 as of the new tax year. And you've also got the use of unused allowances to carry forward 3 years as well. So anything you've unused in the 3 years up to April 23, 5th of April 23, against the £40,000 allowance, you'll be able to carry forward. And then you'll also have 60,000 per year to use. Anything else on pensions before we move on to the last one?
Not for now.
Brill. We want to try and keep this short and snappy. So the other one that we're going to talk about, because you are expecting a child, am I allowed to say that?
Well, everyone knows now. So if you didn't know, I'm now expecting a baby boy in April. So might be news to some people.
Yeah. Well, don't make me start the recording again, Adam. So childcare, tell us what's changing there.
So I think anybody that has kids that they're currently paying for childcare costs knows how significant this is. So I currently have 2 other children. One's 2, one's 4. And so I'm going through this process for both of them, paying childcare fees before they attend reception in school. So the rules as it stands is once your children turns the age of 3, the next term time you get 33 hours of childcare. So that's great, and it is useful. So it's the equivalent of 3 days a week. But the issue that a lot of parents have is between perhaps returning to work, which might be at 9 months, might be at 6 months, all the way up to the age of 3. They've got to pay for that childcare. Which, if you look at the rate of that, it's a similar rate to paying for private schools. So the latest news, which is the big news for a lot of families, is they're going to extend those 33 hours that you would get from 3 years old for 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, and actually from 9 months. The one caveat, which is quite annoying for me, having a child in April, is this is going to be staging over a number of years. So it's not going to be an immediate effect. It's going to start from 15 hours for 2-year-olds, then 15 hours for 1-year-olds, and eventually it'll move to, I think it's in September 2025 from memory, all children under the age of 5 down to 9 months will have 33 hours of childcare. So this is huge, I think.
A big increase in the age band, isn't it?
It's huge, and I think it'll have a big impact on the workforce. And this is what these 2 key pieces of legislation designed. Whilst there's a lot of political things around the lifetime allowance and saying it's for the rich, what I see in my role is a lot of people are retiring from the workforce because of this. In particular, doctors from the NHS. So this is a ploy by Jeremy Hunt, is to get more people back into the workforce, or prevent them from retiring that would retire, because they get to the point where they say it's not really worth it anymore. So whilst it's a nice position for these people to be in, it is having a material impact on the NHS. And I think conversely, at the other end of the scale, what we're seeing with the introduction of childcare is that it's going to get more people, particularly mums, back into the workforce earlier. And I hope it's going to help reduce that inequality in the workplace as well. So for business owners, this also does have a practical implication that members of your team may want to return to work sooner than they might have because they're getting this additional support. So this is going to be a real practical thing that's going to help people where they might return to work after a year or go back part-time. This is going to give them a lot more incentive to do that because they're going to have the support and the money to do that, rather than saying childcare is so expensive, it's not worth me going to work if I then have to pay all of that money that I'm earning to then pay someone else to look after my child. So I think it's a really clever policy, an important policy, not biased at all. It is going to benefit for me, didn't benefit for the 2, but I think as a whole, it'd be a really good thing.
Yeah, and I know from personal experience how terrifying it is as a business owner when an employee goes on maternity and you're crossing your fingers that they'll come back after it. So this just increases the likelihood of that happening, because it makes it more appealing, doesn't it, to come back to work for mums and dads. So yeah, very welcome news. Agreed. We were going to create some spreadsheets and tools and things for you today, but we thought me and Adam could spend a lot of time building something and it not get used. So we'd welcome any suggestions in terms of either topics you'd like us to delve into more, topics that were covered today, or other topics that you've seen in the budget or anywhere else, or if there's any number crunching you'd like us to do, sort of bring some of this to life. Obviously, if you want it to be specific to you, then get in touch with us privately. But if there's just anything that you think we could provide that's going to give you value, then let us know and we'll jump on that as soon as we can. All right. Thanks, Adam.
Cheers, Paul.